Hey, you're wide receiver Khalil Shakir, right?
I sure am, kid. Here, go long.
Whoa! You're pretty good at football, man.
And you guys are pretty good at pizza.
Oh, sick. Dude.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast presented by Picasso's Pizza, where we are here to pay the bills, and we've got a fun one lined up, a celebration. It's Victory Tuesday, and as always, I'm joined by my esteemed panel, Mike Bunt, Mike Partham, and Carson Hayek. Boys, what a great Sunday that was. It had to be a blast. Let's just go around and how we felt. I want to know exactly what you were feeling. Mike Bunt, we'll start with you. As Tyler Bass is strutting onto the field for a 61-yard game-winning field goal in Highmark Stadium on Sunday, 27-27 tie. And just leading up to it, reaction from the stadium I want to hear from you, and then just toss it along there because what a victory that was. We'll get into the game more, but the big story is the moment for Tyler Bass because what a moment it was, man.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was feeling probably a lot more confident than the three of you guys going into the kick. The reason being, like, it was a beautiful day out. The weather wasn't going to be a factor in whether or not he had a chance at getting the distance on the kick. And let's be real, we all know he has the leg from 60 plus. It was just, is he going to kick it straight? Is he going to shank it? Is it going to get blocked? Like, those are my worries. But, like, before the kick, I thought he had a 40 to 50% chance of making it, which, I mean, why not attempt it at that point in time? It's either that or punting it and playing for overtime. So I did feel okay. I was, like I said, a little surprised to see that he made it. But if this was like 57, 56, I think we'd be a little less surprised. And 61, it makes it a little bit wilder when you hear it. But, yeah, I wasn't overly surprised that it went in. Even before the kick, I told a couple people next to me, I'm like, this is a type of kick. He has no pressure. No one expects him to make it. If he misses it, he's not going to get grilled for it. If he can just go back, put everything into it, and hopefully he puts it through. So got to feel great for him. And now hopefully that'll ease some of the pressure and tension that he's felt since the offseason following the kick he missed against Kansas City.
How many times have we seen kicks like this go against the Bills? I mean, wasn't there one just earlier this season against Houston where we fell victim to, I think, what was it, 59-yarder to win it at the end of regulation? So it's nice to have one of these go for us, and I'm sure the Dolphins fans now know how we feel about those sorts of situations. But, yeah, I agree, Bunt. I knew that this is the reason we got Bass in the first place. He has the leg. And although some people are saying that there's a noticeable drop in the sound that the kicks are making these days compared to when we first got them, but you could hear the sound of that kick going off when it happened. And yeah, I wasn't going to blame Bass if he wasn't able to make the kick, but I think they were going to blame him if he wasn't able to make that kick, and he just left that game with a missed extra point and a near missed extra point, because now that ties him for the league lead in extra points with 3. The only other guy is someone on the LA Chargers. So this was everybody was tweeting out that meme, totally redeem yourself from Dumb and Dumber. And I think that was big for him, coming through in the clutch, not just for how significant it was, but for his own confidence. And when I saw that kick, every time a big kick happens, especially for the Bills, in my mind, I'm replaying that scene from Four Falls of Buffalo where it's Norwood lining up for the kick, and that music is pounding and it's going through your head. And I'm thinking, make this one. And it was just miraculous to see it just go right down the pipe. I'm happy for Tyler. I mean, I think he's had one or two bad breaks. Obviously, he's had some yips and kicked a couple of shankers, which may have been due to bad grass or weather or whatever. And I don't know. It seemed like a pretty clear day. I don't know how those extra points were hooking in the second half. Maybe it's that wind in the stadium at one. It's particularly at the end that he kicked at with the 61-yarder where the wind gets to be a problem. Not so much at the tunnel end, but at the opposite tunnel end. So it's knowing that it's even more miraculous that he makes a 61-yard kick. But I just hope we can get him into this new stadium so we can get this win confusion going, and he doesn't have to be so nervous about kicking mere extra points. Not to mention 50+ yard field goals. But anyway, it's a great redemption story for him. Carson, what were your thoughts and feelings?
You guys both brought up great points. I'm thrilled for Tyler Bass. That's a kick that he certainly needed to make as far as his mental state goes. But you brought up a great point. There was no pressure on him as far as that specific kick goes. Nobody expected, for as far as most of the fan base goes, to him even have a chance to make that. But that's a great redemption. I think he had a season low before that kick, obviously missing that extra point that made that game a little bit of a more interesting than it had to be as far as the 13-12 lead at one point in time, and then the one he put right off the upright. So I think there was definitely some concern there if he were to leave that game not making that 61-yard kick is what's next for him. But guess what? He's able to sleep at night. He knows he's going to have a job here coming this week. Now it's all about building on from that, making the kicks that he's supposed to make, like those extra points, those 40-yard field goals, doing that over and over consistently. I think for him it was more he was in his own head a little bit, especially how the season ended last year. He struggled in the playoffs. He comes off. He had some ups and downs this season. So now, to me, I'm looking forward for him. I think this is something that he needs to build off of, because that is a monumental kick. And we talked about it last week, but you and me were having a little bit of a disagreement on if the Bills are for real. Well, this week, I'm proud to say the Bills are for real. So I'm on that chain.
It's okay to be behind.
Wait. Does this mean you're going to be picking the Bills to win from now on? Should we be worried?
Easy now, Parthy. I got to save that for the people later, but it's the Bills. I think are for real. So I'm happy with the win, although it wasn't the prettiest of ones. I was happy with how they played. I thought they came out. They were the better team. It looked for majority of that game. We'll talk probably about the Keon Coleman 14-point swing, but if that play doesn't happen, I think that we're looking at a completely different score. And it to me, 1-0 this week, as Joe Brady would tweet out. So I'm thrilled with it. Great job by Tyler Bass. Happy for him, and let's build going forward.
Yeah, Tyler Bass came into this game, I believe, 3 for 6, if I do my math right, for 40+ yard field goals. Yes. Now he's 6 for 9 and looking very nice.
And can we also have another topic about Tyler Bass? It's like people act like he's just some crap kicker that's awful, that's been missing all of his kicks, and that he's just horrendous. Tyler Bass for his career is 84.7%, which is respectable, especially when you're kicking in Buffalo in elements, cold weather, wind, different things like that. What's his percentage this year? 83.3. Yep. He's 15 of 18. Now going 3 for 3 on field goals definitely helps you with that. But it's not like he's 1.4% underneath his career average. So he's really not that far behind what his normal season. If he makes another 2, 3, 4 kicks in a row, he's going to be ahead of where he normally is. So it's the extra points are frustrating. I think the inconsistency, like Bass is someone where he's definitely had some issues with his form this year and some of his confidence. We've seen some of the shanks, which you don't really see shanks from many NFL kickers. So I think when we see the shanks from Bass, it's just kind of confirmation bias for ourselves. But when you look at the actual kicking percentages in different things like that, Bass is definitely a deserving NFL kicker. And then when you bring in some of the other guys that they brought to the practice squad and in for tryouts, a lot of those guys were kickers that in college were making 65% of their kick. Like McNulty with UB, great kicker, but very inconsistent. These kickers that they were bringing in were way worse than Tyler Bass. So
yeah, it's the same conversation with Sean McDermott, is that you want to get rid of him. Who do you replace him with?
Yeah, and you know what? I did have one point when Bass had the misses earlier this season where I said move on from him. But if they were going to move on from him, they needed to do it at that point. And the fact that now they decided to keep him, and now that he is somewhat found a little bit of a consistency in recent weeks, he solidified himself for being the kicker going forward unless something crazy happens down the stretch.
Yeah, and it was a great point you made that it was house money trying that kick, right? Like, and it's something that maybe they would have avoided in the past, but to get his confidence up, it's like, hey, this really can't. I mean, unless you're like doomsday scenario, you know, we're gonna leave Miami with time on the clock. They're gonna get one playoff, whatever. It was a worthy gamble to let him go and just hit a clean kick, and you knew right off the foot that it was going to go. The way it was hooking right away, it had this, probably would have hit from like 64, 65, honestly. Had some good distance on it. So super happy for him. And you could see how they approached it. And we knew that they were kind of approaching it this way with Bass. But just in that little locker room moment that they shared with the emotional moment with him and McDermott and the game ball and everything else, shows how much they were behind him, like the positive energy. They gave him as, you know, much leeway as they could, as much reinforcement as they could, and wanted him to try to kick out of this. And hopefully this is something that spurs him on the rest of the year, and the struggles kind of fall away. Maybe he gets back into the hot streak that we saw from him a couple years ago, where he's just going to start becoming automatic and look like one of the best kickers in the league again. Because it was really, the whole game was a microcosm of the Bass experience of the last couple of years, with the missed extra point, the doink off there, hitting the kicks, and then hitting the incredible kick. It's just kind of the experience with him. But as you said, Partham, like, if there's not a guy that, and mentioning the guys that they were bringing in, there's not a guy out there that's you have full confidence is going to be better or at least as good. There's no reason not to just try to build this guy's confidence up and keep him around. Obviously, the locker room loves him. And it paid off in a division game where, as you said, Carson, harder than they thought it was going to be, but they were playing a desperate Dolphins team fighting for their season. Tua was incredible in this game. And that's what we need from him too. Like, we need the confidence, you need the swag and everything. And he came through. And so it's a huge moment for this team. The rest of the game, let's just I'll open it up to the floor to you guys here. Let's start with Carson and go around the horn. Just what were your impressions of Allen on Sunday, of the defending Tua, the way that they kind of attacked that? You know, they really took away the deep. They were really trying to take away any of the big plays down the field. It let the running backs have a big day. It was a big bend but don't break day for the defense again. You mentioned the 14-point swing. I'm sure you're going to touch about that, because it really could have been a blowout if it isn't for that play on Keon. But that drive is almost unacceptable from the defense too. But second half, the offense turns it on yet again, and it's been a similar story this year. So what was your biggest impression of the game?
For me, we talked – I know you sent it in the group chat here before the game, but the first quarter struggles, they showed the graphic on CBS, point differential. Bills were -3 coming into that game. I think that's kind of a testament to how good this coaching staff is at adjusting. And there was a few years back when the Jets were really bad. Specifically, I know I love talking about the Jets. You guys, blah, blah, blah. But when they had Adam Gase and Sam Darnold, they came out, and I believe they scored on like their first their first drive in 8 consecutive games or something like that. And it didn't mean a damn, because they ended up winning, 3 games that year. So to me, adjusting is more important than your first 20 plays that you script out. That is something that I think this coaching staff has taken to the next level compared to years past and what we have seen, I think. So that's been great to see. The 14-point swing was a product of that for sure. Keon Coleman, great release. I believe it was a diamond release. Came back on the inside. Josh puts that ball right on him. You're a big physical football player. You got to come down with that ball. And, of course, it's picked off by – couldn't have been anyone worse, Jalen Ramsey. So – it's an unfortunate sequence of events for sure. Miami drives down the field. That's a drive the defense was they just that can't happen when you allow a 97-yard drive like that. They know that. That's an explosive offense in Miami. But I will say Miami did impress me. They were taking what's given, specifically Tua. I think he went 24 of 27, which is a phenomenal outing, regardless of whether you're throwing screen passes the whole game or taking shots down the field. I think they did a good job defensively of containing that explosion on Miami with Hill, Waddle. Obviously, they allowed some of the run to gash them now and again, but I think that played in the Bills' hands. I think they told Miami the game plan that week, we're going to try to have them commit to the run game and beat us that way. And although they moved the ball, they couldn't score. It was a perfect bend but don't break defensive game. I was overall content with what I saw. They didn't wow me on defense, but I was okay with how they played, and I think this is just another game where they can come out saying, I like how we played, and let's move forward and the successful season we've had. So I've been thoroughly impressed. I thought overall it was a solid game. Adjustments, once again, spot on. So if they can continue that, I think this could be a year where something different could happen for Buffalo in the playoffs, possibly.
Yeah, Amari Cooper's presence was sorely felt, or
Yes.
lack of presence was sorely felt in this game. Even in the last game where he didn't really contribute a lot on the field, it seemed like he was opening up a lot, drawing a lot more attention, and it seemed like we just went back to the early season struggles of our receivers, except for Shakir, who was basically Allen's go-to guy. He had 6 catches, 50 yards, and all the yards after the catch, bowling over guys, breaking tackles here and that. I think he broke 6 tackles on one play alone, which was really impressive. Yeah, so it's back to first half struggles and second half adjustments for the Bills. You mentioned the Keon bobble for the interceptions leading to the 14-point swing. There was also a Cook drop that could have possibly ran in for a touchdown over the middle. That was heartbreaking there. If I may, that also led to a couple of rather egregious, badly called penalties that also cost us a touchdown, which leads me to my over-officious jerks of the week. Hey, you over-officious jerk! You had 2 phantom holding calls that, upon further review, just looked nothing like holding. So it takes the Allen great 20-yard touchdown run off the board. People were saying, I didn't see this myself, but did you guys see any offensive pass interference on the Devon Achane touchdown that came right after the Keon bobble for the interception?
I didn't pay close enough.
No.
All right. People were saying there might have been a pick play or some kind of offensive pass interference that was not called. But I mean, Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert were basically running us over in this game. And I think that's the way the Bills want it. They'd rather give up 150 yards rushing than 300 yards passing. But back to the officials for one more moment. The Taylor Rapp play where he's lowering his head into where Raheem Mostert lowers his head into Taylor Rapp, and Taylor Rapp gets the call for a personal foul. I mean, that is the definition of, shall we say, a chicken call.
That's the most chicken call I've ever seen. That is the most chicken call I've ever seen.
So it's just more. It was hilarious seeing the reaction from the Dolphins fans. Did you see the one particular one on TikTok where he was ranting and raving? You know, trade the entire team, just start all over, get rid of all of them, and the Bills get every single officiating call. I'm like, dude, were you watching the same game we were? I mean, anyway, so the Bills come out swinging in the second half. You get Keon redeems himself a little bit by getting a 2-point conversion. Mac Hollins, he had 5 catches for 30 yards at a touchdown. I think he drew at least 1 or 2 penalties on one particular drive, like a holding call and a pass interference call. So Mac Hollins contributing a little bit in this game. And Allen, of course, improvising the play to Quentin Morris with that little basketball flip, I guess, on the touchdown. I mean, that's vintage Josh Allen that we all know and love, and that's why we think he's MVP worthy. But it's more of other teams having us in the first half.
Yeah, they had us the first half. I'm not going to lie.
So we just got to get hopefully Keon's going to be okay, because he had that nasty hit from our old friend Jordan Poyer coming in at the last second and giving us an assist, essentially. Although if Keon's going to be out for a couple of weeks, it might not be so much in the long term. But yeah, so overall, I hope Amari comes back so we don't get this first half, second half, tale of 2 halves, Jekyll and Hyde Bills offense. Bunt, what were your thoughts and impressions?
I mean, I'm obviously not happy that the Bills offense is getting off to slow starts, but I don't think it was as bad as what some people are making it out to be. The fact of it is, Keon Coleman dropped a touchdown that takes 7 points off the board, and then the refs call a phantom holding on a Josh Allen touchdown run. You essentially just took 11 points off the board in that scenario. You're talking about a completely different game right there. If you get those points, you go into halftime down 10-6, you get the Keon Coleman touchdown, and you get the other 4 points. You're going into halftime up 17-10. So I don't think it was as bad as what people were making it out to be. The big thing is that when you don't have Amari Cooper, defenses are going to defend you differently, and the Bills don't have a bunch of separators. So what's happening is Miami basically decided we're going to try to send pressure. We're going to keep things a little bit more constricted, and we don't think you have the guys to really get separation. We're going to make Josh make quicker decisions. So Allen's average depth of target was very close to the line of scrimmage. He only had 6 passes beyond 10 yards. His average depth, I think, he was throwing like 3.5, 4 yards down the field. So it was mostly Josh Allen being smart, taking what the Dolphins defense was giving to him, and then letting players make plays with the ball in their hands. Now, what the Bills answer a lot of the time in these situations before they had Amari Cooper was, we need to establish a run game to kind of spread teams out and give some room to these other guys. And I'm going to get to some of these comments in just a second. So I think sometimes that just makes life a little bit tougher because you're talking about a lot smaller margins for error where there's less separation, there's less room to maneuver. And sometimes I think you need to go through a few series of that to really figure out, how are we going to adjust to this, and how is our plan of attack going to be differently? And with Miami running the ball really effectively early in this game throughout, it really meant that there was a lot of ball control and less possessions in this ball game. So this wasn't a possession-heavy game where teams are just trading the ball over left and right. So I really thought the offense, for the most part, was pretty efficient and decent overall. In the second half, they went touchdown, field goal. So they took advantage of their possessions when it mattered the most. Like Carson said, that's all on coaching and adjustments. So I want to give some credit to that. I thought the offensive line was solid at times. And when you add Amari Cooper into the offense, you're going to see a bigger difference. You're going to see more separation. You're going to see more space for everyone involved. So I think they'll be fine once he comes back, even if Keon Coleman's out a few weeks, which I kind of feel like that's where we're heading.
At the very least, he's going to be out this week. There's no way they're playing him this week. Right?
I think overall offense, I was fine with how they performed. 30 points, I'm not going to complain. Defensively, I'm a little bit more concerned. I know everybody's saying, oh, well, you can let teams run the ball, and that's better than letting them pass it. Well, it's good when you're like running the ball and your bend but don't break defense ends up keeping teams out of the end zone and they settle for field goals, or you create takeaways. It's not good when the Miami Dolphins go off for 27 points and you literally have no answers for the run game at all. I thought Sunday kind of showed the weakness of this defense, and that's that when they have no answers for the run game, they're just totally exposed. This is a team right now that's 12th in DVOA on defense. Yes, they have some good performances like what we saw against Seattle, but that was a pretty bad effort. And if they didn't force that turnover to start the second half, there's a good chance they're down 17-6 before they get the ball in the third quarter. So thank God Taron Johnson made the punch and Elon was able to recover, because I think we're talking about a lot different outcome in this game if that play doesn't happen. So a lot of people haven't been talking about the defense. I think this defense is a legitimate concern right now. And now you don't have Smoot. Now you don't have Carter going forward. You have a legitimate concern on your D-line. You still have concerns with Dorian Williams in coverage. We saw what this defense might be when they don't have Christian Benford. Elam had a mostly solid game, but he's not Christian Benford out there. So overall, I still think this is a decent defense, even without the guys that they have. They're still above average, but they're not great by any concern. And but yeah, at the end of the day, division opponent, hard to get the win. They made enough plays. They got the good kick at the end. You take it, you improve to 7-2, and you hope to go on the road to get to 8-2 against Indy. And I just want to address a few quick comments so we don't ignore these. First one, hoping to get an older monster D lineman. I wish the Bills could get one too, but those are pricey. You have to give up a lot of assets, and teams that have them don't want to give them up. Second comment, Jordan Phillips. I think there's a good chance that he could be on the Bills in the very, very near future. At least he was alluding to it in Instagram earlier. Ray Davis, love the dude. He's already becoming a star, and score more points. That's the bottom line. That's what you get paid to do.
Yeah, well said. Carter, he's on injured reserve, obviously, missing a minimum of 4 weeks. I think that was 2 weeks ago, right? He got put on reserve. For me, that's they think that he can come back and play when he's off reserve. That's the reason they don't make a move on the D-line. I don't understand. And it is pricey. And the guys, the names that were getting thrown around, like there's a lot of big names that guys are throwing around. And the Bills already spent a pick in this cycle. I don't think they were looking to send another premium pick out this year. Not premium, but even a third, fourth, whatever, like a fourth round pick or whatever. Like it didn't seem like they were going to do that if they think that Carter is going to fill that role in there. I do think this is something that they need to address in the offseason. I would love if the first-round pick was a 400-pound monster of a D tackle to put next to Ed Oliver, because I think the sad truth is Carter's been really good, and I think that he could be a starter, but I think they clearly would rather have a rotation on that defensive line, and Daquan Jones just isn't filling that this year. Shout out to you, AJ. That's something we can all agree on here. This is a red, white, and blue podcast here. We're all about Tyler Bass, the Bills. Let's go for it.
I thought AJ was a reporter, not a fan. I don't know. Uh-oh.
Oh. So yeah, this was a weird game because of the 98-yard drive and everything else, but it did feel like the Bills were in control most of the time, even with the defensive struggles. The offense was going to figure out a way to score points and get it done. So credit to them for getting this game done. Credit to them for, again, the one thing we've talked about so many weeks is the composure this team has had all year. And again, they have a composure. At first half, that doesn't exactly go their way. Penalties going against them, as we're talking about holding calls, whatever, the turnover that happens and everything. They could have gotten down on themselves and could have done it in years past. They didn't do it, battled back. Tua could not have played a better game, and they still get the win at home. Has to feel good to take out a division rival like that. And yeah, with no move today on the trade deadline, thought there might be a little tertiary move, but we'll see. Maybe there will be some waivers tomorrow or something like that, and the Bills will be involved there. But let's get into our predictions for this week's Colts matchup. I will start here. I don't think the Colts are very good, even with Joe Flacco. That was a bad performance on Sunday Night Football. This is a team that I think is on the downswing, not the upswing. I think the Flacco move was desperation from them to try to, because it's a locker room that was convinced that they were going to compete this year. Obviously, it's a mess, the situation with Richardson. Carson, I don't know if you've ever went off the field after playing quarterback in high school. It doesn't seem like that's something that went over well with the locker room, though, like that in that regard. They still have faith in the guy, but I just am not, scared of Joe Flacco. This team could have the ability to run all over the Bills, as we talked about earlier, and they've done it in years past. But it feels like the Bills are just a level ahead of this Colts team. I think Allen will have similar success, especially if Cooper's. I'm not expecting to see Coleman. We mentioned it earlier, probably a couple weeks, but at the very least, they're going to sit him this week if he has a chance to play against Kansas City. That's the game you want him back for anyways. But hopefully Cooper's back this week. I don't know what's up with the Bills and all these. This is 5 wrist injuries now. Benford, Cooper, Coleman, Carter, and Smoot, all wrist injuries. Like, that's just a weird phenomenon there.
What they need is to get that grip thing.
Yeah.
Or a shake weight. I don't know.
I don't know how effective that would be.
In the meeting room, just holding on to them.
Just get the shake weight in the. I'm not going to do the motion on here.
Let's not get demonetized.
Yeah, just get a shake
anyway.
weight, and then during the middle of like watching film, just start doing your thing, and it'll help them out. Believe me.
I did see a guy pretty good shape on the train the other day, and he was just squeezing that grip thing away. So there's got to be something to it. Let's get the NFL players onto it. Let's get it going. Something's going on there. But I think if Benford can, we'll see about Benford. Who knows what happens there? But if Cooper comes back, I feel really good about the Bills in this game. I will take it. It'll be closer than it should be, but I think 27-17 is where we end up with this game. Bunt, let's go to you, and we'll go around the horn.
Oh, damn. Already my turn. You know what? Let Carson and Mike be on this. I'll go last here.
All right. Well, first of all, this game gives me Phillip Rivers type of vibes here when we played them in the playoffs. Obviously, this team isn't as good as that team was. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, but they got Unc Joe Flacco playing at quarterback. He's a guy who can sling it, though. I mean, the passing yards with him seems to always be there, but he's going to be able to. You're going to have some opportunities at a turnover, no doubt about it. So you're going to have to contain the passing game. Josh Downs has had a phenomenal year. Pittman's still a threat. Jonathan Taylor does scare me a little bit, but it just feels like the Bills' defense. This isn't going to be one of those games where they get snake bitten by that. And as far as the offense for the Bills goes, the Colts have the 22 ranked defense in everything, basically 22 overall, 22 in the pass, 22 in the run, 22 in the points. So as far as that goes, this is an opportunity for them to, 29th in the offense for the Colts is 22 in everything. Defensively, the Colts are 29th in the defense, 26th in the pass, and 31st in the run. So this is a game I expect James Cook and Ray Davis to absolutely tear it up. The run game should be there all day long if they choose to do so. But this is also a game I want to see the Bills be aggressive and take some shots down the field. It seems they've lacked that over the course of all year, that explosibility and the ability to connect on some of those deep balls. So if we connect on one or two of those, find that extra element to this offense and show other teams that we can do that, I'd love to see that. So if we can just limit their offense from the big plays, this week I view us playing ourselves. Then again, it's the NFL week-to-week league, but give me the Bills. I know it's a boring prediction. Jake Mikey, you're out here stealing mine, but Bills 27, Colts 17.
I was wondering what
Carson,
that fake was when I said it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the same team stats that you are for the Colts, Carson. The best thing I see is that they're 12th in scoring defense, allowing 19.2 points per game. That's about the best you can say from the Colts. Everything else is mid to lower tier, both offensively and defensively. What I'm trying to do for our previews here is trying to get a sense of what the other teams' content creators are saying, such as Ryan Hickey from Infinity Sports. He's saying that even though, as we said, nobody liked the idea of Anthony Richardson coming out of the game, he's saying that there are reports that the locker room was even more divided than ever with the quarterback situation. You know, the Colts, they don't have a chance of going to the playoffs right now. And despite all of Anthony Richardson's, rookie mistakes and his shortcomings, we had a rookie once that had a lot of things to grow on as well, and we stuck with him. Although there was a point where he was injured for the middle of the year. Josh Allen was his rookie year, and he got to sit on the sidelines a little bit, and, take in the game and try to hope that it slowed down for him. And he seemed to come out better for that. But this is more of a coach's decision, benching rather than due to injury. And we don't know if he's ever going to come back. That's Shane Steichen's decision there. And according to Locked On Colts, the comparisons between Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson, Flacco does have a higher floor on his completion percentage and third down efficiency, but Richardson has a higher floor on rushing. In other words, quarterback rushes, also explosive plays and early down success. And they're starting to feel that his scrambling and his rushing was hiding a lot of the offensive inefficiencies that are now exposed with Joe Flacco's lack of mobility, and a lot of this blame of not being able to develop Anthony Richardson, but also other flaws in the offense that haven't been taken care of. That a lot of the blame is seemingly gone to Anthony Richardson when there's a lot of blame to go around, and a lot of that blame is shifting to Shane Steichen. So they're kind of in disarray. I wouldn't say this is a bye week per se, but I think this offense can get by without Keon Coleman for 1 week. Give me the Bills. 34-13.
So I feel like I'm going in a different direction than you guys right now. And you guys know how much I use Vegas to kind of influence my opinions. I feel like Vegas odds are always kind of like a cheat code of what you should expect in the game. Last week, the line for Bills was -6. And I was like, you know what? That's pretty close right now.
Yep.
And I felt like 6-2 Buffalo, 2-5 Miami. People are going to hammer the Bills to cover that, and that probably is a sign it's going to be closer than what people think, and that's why.
But to your point, this was an interesting stat that I've heard from none other than Pat Duffy of 96.5 WCMF's Morning Break Room show, where he was emphasizing, as his cohorts were making their picks for what was going to happen, that the Bills were previously 0-5, and now they're 0-6 versus the Dolphins when the spread is greater than 4 points. So when Vegas picks them to, win by at least maybe a good.
That's something that you got to keep in mind with the Bills, because most people are going to think that the Bills are much better than their opponents. So if you have a line like 6 or 5, it's very interesting, because it's saying that Vegas and the rest of the betting public isn't as high on the Bills during a game, which normally means it might be closer. And so because of that, I picked the Bills, I think 27-24 last week. It ends up being 30-27, something around there. I picked it.
You got the margin right.
Well, this week This week, the line started at -5 for the Bills against a 4-5 Colts team, and it's since gone down to -4. So the betting line is only 4 points. That's pretty close for two teams that the narratives are very different for at the current moment. And the total is 45.5 points. I think Vegas is telling you they expect this to be a close game that could go down to the wire. So because of that, I'm going to pick the Bills, but I'm going to say 24-21. I think this is going to be maybe it's a late score by Indy to make it closer than what it really feels, or maybe this is a game where it really does go down to the wire. But if Vegas has any insight here, maybe they're thinking no Keon. Who knows if they have some insight about Amari Cooper? If this is a game Buffalo goes into with no Amari Cooper, no Keon Coleman, and you're talking about Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, and Curtis Samuel being the guys, and Curtis Samuel still dealing with an injury, it could be a lower scoring game for the Bills offense against a Colts team. And let's be real, what we saw from the Bills defense on Sunday, it's no guarantee they're going to be able to slow down Jonathan Taylor and the Colts offense. So this could be a difficult matchup in some ways. And before the year, when we thought it was Anthony Richardson, I know the three of us, Carson and Jake, we were talking about the Colts as a potential sneaky trap game situated right before Kansas City.
Yep.
I'll just put it like this. I think the Bills are a much better team than Indianapolis, but I think the Colts are good enough to where this could be one of those games at the end of the year. You're like, how the hell did the Bills lose to Indianapolis? And I'm not going to pick it because I would hate myself if I picked the Colts and the Bills win this game like 35-14. But I think it has a chance to be a little bit closer than what fans might think.
Yeah, the Colts this year 7-2 against the spread, and they've gone under 6 times. So I think a close, lower scoring game is probably a safe bet. That line moving from 5 to 4, the spread according to covers, 73% of the bets still on the Bills, even when it went down. So yeah, that line might keep moving, get to 3, 2.5, but clearly Vegas is right.
But wait, you're saying the majority of the people
are still
the sharp money is on.
So it's flipped.
And the sharp money is normally the money you want to be on that side of things. So that's actually even more concerning if you're a Bills fan, because the sharp money is typically the guys that know what's going on, which would say so far the people in the know think Indy's going to make this a really good game.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think the run game is a big part of that. And 62% people going for this game to go over. So it's an opportunity for to make some money there on those, as we're saying here. But I still feel like the Bills are just a class ahead. We'll see what the wide receiver situation looks like, but we'll see. We all got Bills wins though, so we're all feeling at least good enough in this team. I think I did pick them to lose to the Colts in my season projection here before. I don't remember if we all did in the full season one off the top of my head, but yeah, it's going to be a tricky game. Obviously, a potential look-ahead spot. We see what the opportunity is next week. Would have been a lot nicer if Tampa Bay got that win last night, and Kansas City had a loss hung on them. But we're a week away from the biggest matchup. But they got to get through this Colts game this week. We're all feeling confident. We're all feeling good. We paid the bills too, so that's the show tonight. Go catch the Sabres game and go follow along with Crossing Swords for the rest of the coverage there. Don't know what's going on at the moment there, but I know got coverage right going on. All right, hey, stop the count.
I'm not commenting anything positive about the Sabres for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, Mike, that's tough.
Every time I say something good about that team, they follow it up with like 3 or 4 game losing streaks. So I believe I am actually the cause of their failure over the last 13 years. So blame the drought on me.
You're making a great sacrifice, so thank you for that, sir. You're doing Lord's work here. But for Bunty, for Partham, for Carson, myself, Jake, Micah, thank you all for joining, folks. We'll be back next week to talk Bills, Colts, and then a lot of Bills, Chiefs talk, I'm sure. So have a great night. Go Bills.
Let's go Bills.